Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He received a closed-door briefing with Admiral Bradley on the September 2nd strikes. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nicole. It's always great to be on with you.
So you have seen the second strike on the shipwreck sailors in the Caribbean from September 2nd, is that right?
Yes.
Can you describe it to us?
Well, frankly, part of why I support releasing this video is that I think all Americans should see this so that they understand the policy choices that are being made by President Trump and Secretary Hegseth. You see the strike that kills 2 individuals standing on top of a floating piece of wreckage, waving at something, presumably the plane that is closing in on them to kill them. And the larger frame here that matters is whether this entire undertaking is a good use of the exquisite and expensive resources of our special forces, whether these drugs were on their way to the United States at all, there's been no proof of that, and whether this is the most effective way to actually interrupt the cartels that are poisoning Americans with drugs. Of course I support interdicting drugs on their way to the United States. But the way this is being done risks separating us from our partners and allies. The British have stopped sharing intelligence with us and risks undermining the credibility of our work around the world to promote American security. I'm afraid that Secretary Hegseth and President Trump are sleepwalking us into a war with Venezuela, and that regime change and access to the critical mineral resources and oil and gas of Venezuela is the real purpose and real goal here, but we don't know because most of Congress hasn't been briefed at all.
When this story broke, when it burst into public view in the Washington Post report about the vessel being on fire from bow to stern, about 2 shipwrecked people, many of the military experts that have been on this program pointed us and our viewers to the Law of War Manual, which has as its specific example of the line in the Law of War Manual being shipwrecked people. Is there anything in the video that makes that not more any less stark? I mean, these seem like, from Democrats and Republicans who've seen the video, say for Tom Cotton, shipwrecked people.
It certainly seemed that way to me. But, Nicole, what matters here is less what you see in the video than the analysis, the assumptions. And that's all rooted in the policy decisions made to equate trafficking cocaine with attacking America. I understand how the legal framework that was put in place to strike al-Qaeda operatives carrying explosives in Afghanistan who were threatening to attack and kill American troops. I get how that worked, but that same framework and analysis is being applied here, such that if there's any chance at all that the floating wreck might contain cocaine and might make it back to Venezuela, and these 2 individuals might be able to rejoin the fight, that justifies lethal action against them. And I frankly think most Americans wouldn't support this level of violence against the open ocean equivalent of 2 kids standing on a street corner selling drugs rather than going after their bosses in the cartels. If interdicting drugs being trafficked to America is really the point of all this, then why did President Trump pardon last week the former president of Honduras, convicted in an American court of trafficking hundreds of tons of cocaine to the United States? That raises the question, what's the real goal of all this anyway? Is it protecting America from drugs, something we all support, or is it overthrowing a regime in Venezuela, something we should have much clearer plans for what comes next and why we would take on those risks?
Have you had a chance to pose that question to any members of the Trump administration?
Yes.
What is their answer?
Unsatisfying, incomplete, or we'll get back to you.
Is there any explanation of why they're going for the cocaine coming on boats, maybe not coming to America, and not the fentanyl from China and Mexico?
No. Look, there is strong and good work being done in partnership with Mexico, as there was under the previous administration. And there's strong and good work being done to try and persuade China to reduce the amount of fentanyl that they're producing in precursors and sending to the United States. This is a bipartisan effort that's gone on for years. But any explanation as to why a boat 1,000 miles from the United States, rounding Trinidad and likely headed towards Europe, is a legitimate military target, that's not something we've received in enough detail to persuade me and many of my colleagues.
Are you aware of many drug shipments that have lots of drugs and 11 people on the boat? Is that a common way of trafficking a large amount of drugs?
Nicolle, I don't know that level of detail. It did seem odd to me that this relatively small boat needed 11 people on it. And so that may be buried in operational details about what they were planning to do after they rendezvoused with some other boat. But it does seem like a lot of people relative to the size of the boat and the amount of its cargo. Our larger point, rather than getting into the minutia of this exact incident, is where are we headed and why is Donald Trump taking us there? I'll remind you, he ran on, I will lower your costs, I'll make America healthy again, and no stupid foreign wars. He's failed at lowering costs. The costs of health care and housing are going up. He's failing at making America healthy again. We're going to cast a vote here this week on whether or not millions of Americans will no longer be able to afford health care. And now it seems he's failing at the third, sleepwalking us into a war with Venezuela.
Just real quickly, my last question is about the Republican response. The bar is so very low, but they do seem to be, with a couple of exceptions, almost as concerned as Democrats. What are the private conversations like among your Republican colleagues?
Nicolle, there's three different things that Republicans have shared with me this week they are alarmed about. One is, of course, this episode and the justification and the video. Another is the statements Trump is now making about Ukraine, suggesting that he's going to abandon Ukraine to Russia and knuckle under to Putin's aggression. And the third is Trump's decision to allow advanced AI chips to be sold to China. He's just released a national security strategy that fails to say that Russia's an aggressor, fails to say that China is our leading threat to our way of life in the world, and fails to support our European and Indo-Pacific partners and allies who are joining with us in this work against the aggression of Russia and China. That's got a lot of my Republican colleagues concerned, but not in ways they're talking about publicly, at least not yet.